So the repeat sentences part of the speaking exam happens to be one of the easiest part of the exam. Regardless of that, a lot of people still find it challenging to actually get good grades in this part of the exam. Well, today I'll be sharing with you some of the tips that I used to get better grades. I will also share with you some of the practice strategies that can help you improve your speaking in general, as well as prepare you for this part of the exam. All this and more coming right up in the next tutorial. Alright, so before we head into the tips and the practice strategies and showing you how to practice, there's something very important that I want to talk about. Before you write any exam, you need to know how the scoring system for the exam is. A lot of people overlook this, and this may turn out to be a little bit detrimental to your scoring or your marks if you don't know what exactly you're fighting for. So for this part of the exam, the scoring system is in three parts. You are actually being scored for one, your content. Your content is the grammar at which you use. That means the content, the number of words that you have been given, and how much of those words you say. So if you say all the words, 3 points are there for the grabbing. Now if you say 50% or over 50% of the words that you actually hear, then you will be scoring 2 points. Not so bad either, but you want to be gunning for those 3 points. Now if you say less than 50%, you get 1 point, and that 1 point is basically for attempting, and you get 0 if you're just staring at the computer. Obviously, you don't want to do that, and you're not going to do that. That's not you. All right, so the other part that you're being scored for is your oral fluency and your pronunciation. How many points is there for grabbing? 5 points. So you're getting 5 points if you're a native like speaker, for 4 points if you are actually an advanced speaker, and you're getting 3 points if you're a good English speaker. 2 points will be considered an average English speaker, and 1 point for attempting at all. So in anything that you do, remember those tips that I gave you, they still stand for this part of the exam, which is don't stay silent for more than 3 seconds, and all the other tips that you need to be able to pass this exam. Basically what I'm saying is make sure that you attempt every question in this exam, especially in this part, because the more questions that you answer, the more marks you get, obviously. And this part is really easy. So my advice is do everything possible to get 100% of the repeat sentences. It will help you in scoring those high grades. So now we get straight into the tips. All right, so my first pointer today will be directed towards listening. Listening is a very vital part of this exam. Why? Because without listening, you can hear something and not actually have an understanding of what was being said. For example, when you meet someone for the first time and you guys introduce yourself, hey, my name is Josh, and hey, my name is Daniel. And the next time you meet each other, you can't remember the other person's name. It is not because you don't remember, it is because in the first instance, your focus was not on that person's name, but rather on the conversations that you had. So if you want to access your memory part of your brain, you need to listen, because it is what you focus on and listen that actually stores in your brain. So your short-term memories can be accessed and you can actually repeat what you have heard. Now, how can you improve on this? One strategy that I used was when I was practicing for this, I created distractive noise around me. This is because when you are writing this exam and you are attempting this exam in the examination hall, there are other people sitting around you who are actually attempting this exam. Now, no matter the space that is being given, you will actually hear them when they are also attempting the repeat sentences. So you want to be able to focus on what you are listening to for the exam and not be distracted by what you are hearing. So there's a huge difference between hearing and listening. So learn how to focus by practicing a lot more. So that's my first tip today. Practice your listening. So the next thing I want to talk about is phrases. Breaking each sentences down to phrases. and trying as much as possible to understand each phrase in the sentence. This helps you to have better memory and access your short-term memory. If you can break them down into short phrases, then you can actually understand those words easier. It's kind of like divide and conquer in war. So when you're fighting people, you want to divide your enemies so that you can take them out one by one. So it's the same application to this part of it. So when you hear an entire statement, an entire sentence, break them down into phrases. This helps you understand what is being said, and understanding helps you remember what has been said. So in a future video, I'll probably show you how to break a sentence that is being said into phrases, and this will actually help your memory, as I've said. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is about the speaking part of the exam. And as I've mentioned before, you're being scored for your oral fluency and pronunciation as well as content. Now, what is very important about this is that if your oral fluencies and pronunciations are not that great, you're going to score very low. So that is a given. You can improve on this by learning more about syllables for your pronunciation, because what you're being scored on is your syllables. And so your pronunciation carries different stress on different syllables. Every word is made up of syllables, so you have to learn how to stress those words up and down when you're saying certain words. Like I said in my very second video, I think, I talked about interrogation. So you can imagine that the gay in the word had actually a higher stress in my intonation. So every other part was interrogation. So you have to learn how to stress those words. The same thing goes for your oral fluency. Now, oral fluency has to deal with pace, and I've mentioned this before. The pace at which you speak, not so slow that you sound condescending, and not too fast that nobody can understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. So you want it to be very, very, very smooth and, nice to hear in the ear. And so the computer has been programmed as if you are communicating with someone else, and that's the same way that you have to communicate with the computer. How do you improve this, or how do you actually convince the computer that you're a native-like speaker? You have to go up and down when you're talking. So you have to stress some words, and do not give it like robot-like type of speaking. Like I said before, a robot type of speaking or robot-like type of speaking will be, how are you? How are you doing today? And how is everything going? That's robot-like. But when you are actually speaking to someone and you are native-like, you have to go up, how are you today? And how are you doing? So that is enough to actually convince the computer, regardless of the fact that it might not be perfect, but the computer will sense that you are actually stressing certain words. And so your wave-like pattern would actually convince the computer that you are native-like. Easy peasy. All right, the fourth point I want to talk about today is practice. Practice, practice, practice. You cannot make it in this exam if you are not practicing. No matter how good your English is, I do not care. You have to practice. So my strategy for practicing, as I've done in a previous video, is I record myself whenever I'm attempting the exam. This is a sure and easy way to assess yourself, so you can actually mark yourself and see how you're doing. Practice also shows you how you are improving in your preparations for this exam. So practice without ceasing. Practice every chance that you get. When you're watching a TV program, a documentary, a movie, try to repeat after them. And when you finally get the opportunity to sit down and do this exam and practice with a proper practice question, probably you would get from YouTube or websites like PTE Studies that actually have a lot of questions in them, you'd actually be able to do way, way, way better. So my tip and my advice to you is practice without ceasing. And my strategy for practicing is record myself when I am practicing so that I can assess myself. So my last and final tip today will have to do with something that might not be accessible to everyone, but if you really can, and this is a general thing that will actually help you for any form of exam that you're writing, and that is get a study buddy. You know what I mean? And try to tutor them as well, whatever it is that you have learned. Now, I use this system for most of the exams or almost any exam that I write. I get a study buddy that we study together because there is a saying that iron sharpeneth iron. So you people, or the two of you or three of you or four of you, can sharpen each other and make each other better. You can actually help each other to assess yourself. Not a lot of people will tell you this, but this really improves your reading if you're actually obligated to teach someone else what you have studied. It actually helps you. It helps your brain cognizance to open up to receive a lot of learning, because now you have an obligation to actually mix something, to actually help someone else, and that actually helps you do better. So try to get a study buddy, try to tutor them whatever it is that you have learned, and as you tutor them, you get better as well. All right, yeah, this is my favorite part of the tutorial, where I get to answer some of these questions. Now, if this is the first time that you're actually attempting this exam and you don't know what it is like, this would be a good preamble for you so that you can actually hear the sequence at which the repeat sentences go. So before I start, I'll actually play the instructions, because it is always good to listen to the instructions. Like I've always said, that's one of my tips for you. Okay, so let's get started with this questions.
You will hear some sentences. Please repeat each sentence exactly as you hear it. You will hear each sentence only once. Please come to the next seminar properly prepared.
Please come to the next seminar properly prepared.
You will find the economics section on the second floor of the library.
You will find the economics section on the second floor of the library.
Next time, we'll discuss the influence of the media on public policy.
Next time, we will discuss the influence of the media on public policy.
There is plenty of cheap accommodation off campus.
There is plenty of cheap accommodation off campus.
The lecture on child psychology has been postponed until Friday.
The lecture on child psychology has been postponed till Friday.
The meeting will take place in the main auditorium.
The meeting will take place on the main auditorium.
You must establish a day and a time with your tutor.
You must establish a day and a time with your tutor.
There will be no extensions given for this project.
There will be no extensions given for this project.
New timetables will be posted on the student notice board.
New timetable will be posted on the students' notice board.
All students are encouraged to vote in the forthcoming elections.
All students are encouraged to vote in the next coming elections. So, anyways, you guys, those were typical 10 examination PTE questions for the repeat sentences. And so that's the sequence which this examination is going to be thrown at you, figuratively speaking, of course. Yeah, so while I was actually answering those questions, I made a mistake in one or two of those questions. See if you can spot which questions that I made the mistakes. It is to show you that even if you've heard something before, you can still make a mistake if you're not focused at listening to it. So practice as much as you can. I cannot emphasize enough how much you need to practice and better yourself in this exam. Well, hopefully this tutorial and this video has been very helpful to you. If you liked this video, remember to smash that like button. And if you've got any questions for me, leave it in the comment section below. And also, Don't forget to subscribe. I'm always telling you, if you want more videos, please hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna keep it moving now. I spent all night trying to shoot this video for you guys, so I'm gonna keep it moving. But before I do, remember to always keep learning, stay blessed, and be terrific. See you guys.